Ever found yourself staring at a beautifully framed piece of art and thinking, how did they do that?
Or even just like a simple family photo, but it looks so much better than when you tried to do it yourself.
Right. Like there's got to be more to it than just slapping some wood and glass around it.
Well, get ready to become framing connoisseurs because today we're diving deep, deep into the world of frame making. And our trusty guide for this journey is RoleCatcher's career deep dive on, you guessed it, frame making.
Okay, so not gonna lie, when I first saw this on our list of topics, I thought, framing, how complicated can it be? But then I started skimming through this role catcher guide.
M.
Calling me intrigued. I mean, it's like you think you know what a frame maker does, but this guide reveals a whole other level of like artistry and complexity.
It's so true. It's one of those things that often flies under the radar, Like you just don't think about all the thought and skill that goes into it.
Exactly. So where do we even begin with this? What's the first thing that jumped out at you from this deep dive?
I think what surprised me the most right off the bat was how much emphasis they put on the client relationship aspect. Like, it's not just about the technical skills, it's about understanding the client's vision.
Client psychology for frame makers. Okay, now that's not something I saw coming. Tell me more about that.
So, RoleCatcher really stresses the importance of guiding the client through different framing styles and materials, helping them see how different choices can completely change the look and feel of a piece.
It's like being a consultant almost.
Right. But instead of business strategies, you're advising on how to best showcase their precious artwork, photographs, you name it.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, because the right frame doesn't just like protect what's inside, it enhances it. It becomes part of the whole presentation.
100%. And that's where the deep knowledge of the craft comes in. And the guide really dives deep into that, especially when it comes to choosing the right materials, like different types of wood, understanding their properties, all that good stuff.
So you're telling me there's more to picking out a piece of wood than meets the eye?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about aesthetics, it's about longevity. Certain woods react differently to humidity, temperature changes, that sort of thing. So a good frame maker needs to know which wood is best suited for, say, an oil painting versus a delicate watercolor.
Wow, I'm already feeling way more informed. See, this is what I love about these deep dives.
Right, and we're just getting started.
Hit me with another fascinating framing fact. What else did this guide blow your mind with?
Okay, so we've got the client aspect, the materials, but then it gets even more granular, like talking about color treatments for the frames.
Okay, so we're talking stains, paints, all that.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just picking a color. The guide talks about how different finishes can dramatically change the whole vibe of the piece, like a distressed finish versus a high gloss lacquer. Totally different feel.
It's amazing how much detail and precision goes into something we often, like, completely take for granted.
And then there's the whole glass cutting aspect, ensuring a perfect fit, understanding different types of glass for different needs. It's a whole other skill set.
It's like you really do learn something new every day.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any more interesting, the guide throws in a curveball.
Oh, lay it on me.
They start talking about CAD software.
Wait, CAD software? Like the computer program for framing?
You'd be surprised. It's not all dusty old workshops anymore. Designers are using CAD software to create these intricate frame patterns, visualize how different styles will complement the artwork, all that jazz.
My mind is officially blown. It's like this traditional craft is meeting cutting-edge technology. Who knew?
Right. And speaking of tradition, get this, the guide also delves into the world of antique frame restoration.
Now, that's something I can get behind. I bet there are some incredible stories behind those old frames. Imagine bringing a piece of history back to life, carefully restoring something that might have been touched by, like royalty or famous artists.
Right. It's like each frame has its own story to tell.
It's like being a history detective, but instead of clues, you're piecing together these beautiful old frames.
I love that analogy. And it's not just about restoring the frame itself, it's about preserving a piece of art history.
Totally. Okay, so we've established that frame making is way more than meets the eye.
Mm.
But let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, I'm totally captivated. How do I actually make this a career?
Well, good news for them because RoleCatcher lays out a whole career path. It's actually broken down into 4 distinct stages.
Ooh, levels to this game, huh? All right, break it down for me. What are we talking about here?
So you start at the entry level, then you move up to junior frame maker. After that, you become an experienced frame maker. And then the top of the mountain, Senior frame maker.
So it's like a ladder you climb, gaining experience and skills at each rung. What I love is that they don't just give you these titles, they actually show you what each stage looks like in practice.
Right. They have these profiles of real life frame makers at different points in their careers. So you can see, okay, what are they doing day to day? What kind of projects are they working on? What are their biggest challenges?
It's so much more helpful than just a vague description, like, oh, a senior frame maker supervises others. No, I want to know what that actually looks like.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, as you go through these profiles, you see how the role evolves. Like at the senior level, you're not just making frames. You might be consulting on design choices for big clients, managing restoration projects.
Mentoring junior frame makers. The
It,
guide actually talks about that, right?
it's true. It highlights how important that mentorship aspect is in this field, passing down knowledge, keeping those traditional techniques alive.
I love that. It shows that sense of community, that dedication to preserving the craft. Okay, so let's fast forward a bit. Our listener has been putting in the work, honing their skills, maybe even restoring a few antique frames in their garage.
They're ready for their big break.
Exactly. They're applying for jobs. And of course, the dreaded interview process. Does our trusty guide offer any tips on that front?
Oh, you better believe it. And it's not just generic interview advice. They have an entire section specifically tailored to frame making interviews.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Give me an example. What kind of frame maker specific questions are we talking about?
All right, so picture this. You're sitting across from a potential employer, and they ask you, how do you ensure frames are properly aligned?
And that sounds simple enough, but I bet there's more to it than meets the eye.
Exactly. It's about showing that you understand the precision involved, the attention to detail. It's not just about slapping some wood and glass together.
Right, it has to be perfect, especially if you're framing something valuable or meaningful.
100%. It's about showcasing that you have the skills and the eye for detail to create a high-quality product. And speaking of upping your game, remember how we talked about technology changing the framing world? Well, RoleCatcher takes it one step further.
Okay, you're going to have to elaborate on that one. What are they doing now bringing robots into the workshop?
Not quite robots, but close. They have this AI-powered tool called Copilot.
Copilot, like for your career.
Exactly. So you upload your resume, and Copilot analyzes it alongside job descriptions you're interested in. And then, get this, it actually helps you tailor your resume and even suggests things you can highlight during your interview.
Hold on, it's like having a personal career coach, but powered by artificial intelligence.
That's wild.
It's crazy, right? And it's not just for frame makers. They have it for all sorts of careers. It's really amazing how technology is being used to empower job seekers.
It's like having a secret weapon for your resume powered by ones and zeros. All right, so we've covered the skills, the career path, even how to nail that interview. Anything else this guide has up its sleeve, or are we ready to call it a wrap?
Not so fast. This guide throws in one more gem, and it's especially juicy for those of you with that entrepreneurial spirit. They touch on the possibility of, wait for it, opening your own framing business. Ooh, now there's a thought. Being your own boss, picking your projects, maybe even designing your dream studio space. I can smell the sawdust and antique finishes now.
Right. The guide doesn't give you a whole business plan or anything, but it plants the seed. Like imagine you're not just making frames, you're creating an entire experience for people. This blend of art and craftsmanship and your own personal touch.
It really does add a whole other dimension, doesn't it? From a single frame to building a whole business around something you love. This whole deep dive has been full of these zoom out moments, like seeing the bigger picture of frame making.
And that's what I love about really digging into any craft. Like we started with, what does a frame maker do? But this guide showed us it's way more than a job title. It's a whole world full of history and artistry and, like you said, even business opportunities.
And this is where I think it gets really interesting for our listeners, and not just because we're nearing the end of our deep dive.
Okay, you got to elaborate on that. What are you thinking?
Well, we've explored all this amazing information, right? But the guide leaves us with this one final, almost provocative question.
Hit me with it. I love a good, thought-provoking question.
It simply asks, what unique value could you bring to the world of frame making?
Ooh, that's a good one. It makes you realize that this isn't just about replicating what's been done before. Like maybe you're super passionate about sustainability. Could you bring eco-friendly framing techniques to the table?
Right. Or maybe you're a tech whiz and you could develop some groundbreaking new framing software.
The possibilities are truly endless.
This deep dive hasn't just been about learning a bunch of facts about frame making. It's about sparking that inspiration, you know, showing that even in a craft with so much history, there's still room for innovation, for personal expression.
It's a good reminder that there's always more to discover, more to learn, and always, always a way to make your mark.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those possibilities. This has been a fascinating exploration into the intricate and often overlooked world of frame making. Until next time, keep those creative gears turning.